Hey everybody, welcome to our March edition of WICOR Pop-Ups. Today we'll be looking at some student success skills for our pre-K through second grade students. So if you are a pre-K through second grade teacher, welcome aboard, and we're glad you're here to join us today for our session. I'm going to switch on over to our screen share. Well, I just lost y'all. Okay, now we're on board. Okay, so again, developing student success skills for our pre-K through second grade teachers. We are here for your to support you guys. Again, my name is Laura Valdez, and I'm the Avid Elementary Coordinator. And then we have Carolyn Lee. She is our Avid Elementary Specialist, and Ivan Cantu, who is our Avid Elementary, our Avid Administrator for the district. Don't forget to let us know you're here. We like to see what you guys have. If you have questions or comments for us, any feedback is greatly appreciated. So in today's session, we're going to be looking at how these strategies fit in with those WICOR components. So we have W, using language stems to reflect on learning. The I, using critical thinking skills, and also using language stems to express thoughts and opinions. The C, learning with and from my peers, using language stems to communicate my thoughts. And then O, organizing my thoughts before expressing my opinions. So again, using the trend here is those language stems, and language stems are going to be really what we work around in order to get our students ready for the next level. And we're also going to be talking about, as we know, using those academic language stems to speak and write will help all of our students, ELLs, and all of our learners. And then if we're looking at balanced literacy and looking at ways these can be embedded into the mini lesson as a share out strategy, using those language stems, the academic language stems, as a anchor for them to share out during that mini lesson time or during guided practice time, but then also including these as stations, these next couple of strategies as stations, while they are working on that skill for the week. Always like to start with a quote. Children must be taught how to think, not what to think. So what these strategies, what all of our strategies that we use are really what we want to do at the beginning, at the onset, is model for them how to use these strategies to think and have those critical thinking skills and use them every day as we go through our lessons and as they go and do independent practice and guided practice also. So the first strategy is academic language stems. That's going to be our anchor really for the rest of our time together. So I wanted to start out with them. So academic language stems help the learner concentrate on the content or the thinking task at hand. It provides that anchor for that desired response. And then language support for all learners, as I mentioned before. The anchor is using that anchor for them so they can actually, again, concentrate on what the task is and concentrate on the thinking that they're going to be doing as they are working through the strategies and working through questions that are being asked of them. For our younger learners, the very younger learners, so at the onset, so also keeping in mind as we're walking through these strategies, keeping in mind what's developmentally appropriate for each of your kids. You know, a lot of times we think that these strategies can't be done in the pre-KK classroom, but in actuality, if we're thinking about where they are in either their writing stages or their speaking stages, you know, we modify these strategies so that it fits their needs. So when I talk about the young learner, just keep in mind that we're also talking about modeling these strategies before even releasing them to our kids. So we talk about whole group, maybe then moving into either group work, partner group, and then starting to release it when the kids are ready to take on the task of the strategy. When we're talking about their writing stages, while we're modeling, we're scribing. But then as the year goes on, we might be able to share the pen with those kids who can begin to have that phonetic spelling. And then releasing it individually, using pictures, allowing for that phonetic spelling. And I'll show you an example later on this afternoon. And then a combination of both. But again, working in partners at the onset and having them, if you have a nonverbal student, if you have a kid who's able to communicate what that nonverbal student is saying, then pair those two together when we're talking about responding. So some examples that we've seen a lot of is I agree with blank because, I disagree with blank because, I like because, I don't like because. And then also when we talk about, we want kids to be aware of their thinking, where they're critical thinking, what they're doing, the thinking behind the thinking. So some of those would be I think because, I would rather blank because, I choose blank because, and I picked blank because. Those are some of the stems that you might be able to use. Again, these are anchors and guiding them through the response. But what we really want to get them to be thinking about is that content. What goes in those responses? What goes in those blanks? So this is a way to kind of get that started at the very young age. As you see on the screen, we have some examples. If you went to Summer Institute, these might look familiar because these were on our name tents during Summer Institute this past year, and we're probably using them again this coming year. So these are going to be included in the folder that I provided the tiny URL for. And if you didn't see it, it's tinyurl.com/wpopupmar. And the wpopupmar is in all caps. That will take you to the folder that has the different resources that I used to develop this session today. So some practice that you can do. Let's practice using the academic language stems. So maybe at the end of the story, what did you like about the story? What did you like about the character of the story? So those kinds of responses that you can have for the end of the story. After discussing word problems, what gave you difficulty? What was the hardest part of the problem? The hardest part of the problem for me was blank because blank. So discussing different parts of the story, and then debriefing after doing an activity. And we're going to get to do that today after each of the strategies. So some starters that you could use to get them thinking. So for us today, just to get started, I'm going to give you just a minute to fill in these stems. I have used academic language stems to blank. I feel it is important to use academic language stems because, and I'll give you about a minute to do that. Okay, so again, just an anchor, just a way to get kids to start thinking about what they're learning and also being able to express and keep track of that thinking as we go through lessons. So the second strategy that we're going to be looking at is called playground speeches. These are speeches allow kids to think creatively, speak unrehearsed in front of a small group, and then create structured communication on the fly. So there's two ways that we can do this, but at the younger age, what I'm going to suggest is we do a little bit less on the fly, but more structured. And then as we go along on the spectrum as we go along in progression, you might do a little bit more of on the fly type of discussions. For the young learner, we might use picture cards. We might ask for specific, describe what's in the picture, describe what's on the card, or infer what is happening in the picture. What do you think is happening in the picture? And then we might work in partners to create the speech. So, playground speeches, let's practice. Students choose a card from the bag. You would give students 2 to 3 minutes to brainstorm the content. And that would also take you modeling, monitoring, walking around, monitoring and making sure, what they are brainstorming, kind of keeping them on track. Again, at the onset, you would be doing this in front. So it's model, 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 and then let's start to release. And then students get a minute to present their speech. Of course, reviewing expectations of the presenter and the audience. So for instance, for our younger grades, I would have cards that had pictures connected to them. So we had 3. If you could only eat 3 foods this week, what would they be? A second card might say, is Batman or Superman a better superhero? The third card, what is your favorite color? Name as many things as you can that are that color. Okay, so 3 options. You can have more, but again, at the very beginning, I would guide more of and control more of the options that are given to them. So for our nonverbals, this is kind of a suggestion. I was just thinking about, what do we do for our nonverbal students, the ones who just aren't ready to share yet or aren't ready to talk to a whole group. So work with the partner, work with the group. They may draw their answer cartoon style while the partner is drawing and while one partner is sharing the speech, while they brainstormed the speech, they brainstormed and they drew out the speech, one partner could talk while the other one holds the drawing. And that would be an example right there. So this one chose Batman. And the other picture says Batman fights bad guys. So we have a little bit of that phonetic spelling where we're missing some letters, but we have we're able to tell what the picture is saying or is showing. So playground speeches, let's debrief. So having a discussion, maybe this is whole group, maybe this is circle talk, kind of Socratic seminar-ish. So I felt blank giving my speech because, so that might, you might pull out some emotion faces. Pick an emotion and then tell me why you felt that way. I like giving my speech because, I didn't like giving my speech because, next time I give my speech, I will. So give them these sentence frames, these anchors so that they can share how they felt during the process of giving the speech. And then again, providing emotion faces so they can choose which emotion faces they feel they felt during the speech, and then talk about, well, sometimes, we do get a little scared, or sometimes we get overexcited, or, just kind of talk about those emotions and debrief about doing the playground speeches. And then giving feedback as to, next time we can choose 3 about sports, or we can give them the options of what those playground speeches will be, so they can kind of be thinking about that when they know it's coming up. What we're doing with our young learners, again, remember, is setting them up for that next level, getting them ready for, if we're pre-K, getting them ready for kindergarten. If they're kindergarten, getting them ready for first. If they're first, getting them ready for second. And as we go through that progression, each grade should be a little bit more rigorous in what they do for those playground speeches. So if you're planning, if you're doing that vertical alignment, talking to that grade level before and after about, if we're going to do playground speeches, what's something that we can do at our grade level that's going to get them ready for the next one. Okay, moving on into our last strategy for this afternoon would be, would you rather? If you follow us on Twitter, we have our pre-K students doing would you rather. So we thought, I think this is a fun way to start to get kids to do a couple of things. Formulate opinions, safely have a dialogue about different points of views, and then start to develop those skills that support their ability to reason and think critically. What happens is we start with would you rather. what we eventually get to at the upper grades is philosophical chairs. So just think about this is a way that we can get our kids to start reasoning, start thinking about, well, I have this opinion, or I like red because it makes me feel strong, or I wear black because Batman wears black, or I wear green because my favorite color is green. My eyes are green. It matches my eye color. So start to develop those skills at an early age by doing this would you rather. For the young learner, we might have picture cards. We might have picture cues. Again, working in partners to develop reasons for choosing sides. So we want to model whole group. We want to move them into partners, and then eventually, okay, now we can start brainstorming on our own. So, think about if you're pre-K, what are we doing at our grade level to start to develop reasons for choosing sides? And then how do we move that along into our older grades? So again, model at first. Make it a game. Make it where you're going to choose between two sides. We're going to think of as many reasons for why choosing either side makes sense. So first, we're going to stand in a straight line. Then I might give my two options. Again, having picture cues, give my two options, one in my right hand, one in my left, and they have to make a second set of lines based on what side they go to. So have them move to either side, give them about a minute or two to talk to a partner, talk to an elbow partner about why they chose to go to that side, and then have a share out of reasons for going to their sides. So for instance, I have, would you rather play the guitar or play the drums? So I would have drums in my left hand, play the guitar in my right hand. And so after I say go, they would choose whatever side they want to go to. I would give them a minute to talk to an elbow partner about why they chose the guitar or why they chose the drums. And then we can come together and form a big circle and then talk about reasons for choosing guitar or drums using our stems. Another way that you can, another thing that you can do for your nonverbals is might have some picture cues. Like this one is agree and disagree. So the would you rather would be, I would rather do this. You could have, you could change those picture cues. They could have the pictures of the guitar, the drums. Just for our nonverbals, what's a way that we can modify our demonstration of learning, our demonstration of knowing what we're doing? How can we modify that for our nonverbals? And so I think having picture cues would be a way to do that for them. So the debrief, again, verbally written or using stems. I liked choosing guitars because blank. I didn't like choosing sides. I didn't like choosing sides because blank. When I choose a side, I feel blank. Again, those emotion faces because blank. I agree with so-and-so because blank. I disagree with so-and-so because. So again, what we're doing with the would you rather is setting them up for what will later be philosophical chairs. So making a decision, having opinion, understanding that other people have different opinions. So that way, when we do get into philosophical chairs, they can probably get into some deeper content. The other thing that I would do with the would you rather is start with some, easy, out of context type of topics. Like I chose guitar and drums. You can choose soccer or football, basketball or football. You can choose all kinds of different sports. And then later, what you can also do is bring in, like at the beginning of the year, I suggested this also to a couple of teachers, use the developing of your class rules, use your would you rather. Would you rather do this? Would you rather, sit and not talk at all? Or would you rather follow directions and have time to have fun? So those kinds of, just kind of bring some of those, developing the class rules at the beginning of the year, your contracts, use that would you rather as an option for that. So just as a recap, we had three big strategies that we did, and the academic language stems really fell within each of the other two. We had the academic language stems, that language support allows students to concentrate on the content and thinking and have that anchor for a response. Can also be modified for young learners. The playground speeches, giving kids a chance to think creatively, doing that on the fly speech, just saying, today we're going to have a couple of speeches about superheroes. And so you might choose a couple of superheroes or questions revolving superheroes and have them just start. You can say at the beginning and then not do it till later, but we want them to start thinking creatively and starting to be able to speak in front of others and speak in front of maybe a partner. And then if they're able to go to that whole group speaking, then let's do that. And then the would you rather, formulating opinions. Again, safely having a dialogue about different points of view. I chose green, but she chose yellow. Just kind of talking about why they chose those different colors and accepting the different viewpoints. Developing skills that support their ability to reason and think critically. Again, the would you rather is what's going to end up leading to philosophical chairs. So why not start at the very young age of knowing how to develop an opinion, but also knowing the reason and knowing the reasoning behind that opinion. And so we can get our kids to be able to have discussions, have dialogue, have opposing views, but with academic language being that anchor for them. If you need support, don't hesitate to ask. Here's our QR code that leads to a Google form. Well, if you are in our district, you can do that for us. But if you're out of district and if you're needing maybe some resources, please don't hesitate to use that QR code to ask us for some resources, and we will be happy to share our resources with you. And we thank you for joining us this afternoon. We hope that it was helpful for you, maybe give you some strategies that you can use with your kiddos for the last couple of months that we are in school. But then also at the beginning of the year, let's get them started with doing some of these strategies so that they'll be able to share and talk in whole group throughout the whole year. Thanks, you guys. We will see you later. Tomorrow we will have WICOR Pops for our 3rd through 5th grade. And so be sure to join us or tell your teachers in the 3rd through 5th grade to join us tomorrow. We'll see you later. Thank you. Bye.